Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'll wait for a few minutes so that others would also join. Meanwhile, I'll introduce the basics of enrolling into this course. Children and Climate Change is the today's course. It takes about 2 hours to complete this particular course. Again, this is offered by UN and the UNCC Learn website. I'll share the screen how to enroll into this course, and then we'll go step by step. Yeah, please check this. We're seeing the see here. To go to this course, we had to key in unccelearn.org. So already I logged in here. You can see. Here I'll go to all courses. So today's course is on children and climate change. Going directly children. So we are here, children and climate change. This is the course. So because I already enrolled, that enrolling page is not coming. Please mute yourself, anybody. Srikant, please mute them if anybody is unmuted. So in this course, this is very simple course. We have only one piece, and the material is given in 3 formats. Interactive lesson format, and PowerPoint presentation format, and PDF format. So you can go by any method. The content will be same. Only the way it is presented will be different. So if you open PowerPoint presentation, then you will come down to, I'll show. Yeah. So once you open the PowerPoint presentation, you can see the PowerPoint presentation opened here. So all the material is given here in this PPT. This is very convenient of going through the materials and learning. So I'm opening the screen. So are you able to see the presenter view? Let me check again. Because it is on the other screen.
Screen is not appearing, sir.
Yeah. I'm just checking this. Are you able to see the presenter? So you also live streaming is on your side, I think. No, can you see the full screen or only half screen?
Full, sir. Full.
Full screen you are able to see? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this children and climate change I opened in the PPT format. As I said, we have three formats: PDF format, PDF, and interactive learning format. That is the web-based interactive learning. But I felt PPT is very convenient to, especially to present to you this course. So here you can see there are these symbols given on how to access this material. So here click to read if you have this symbol, and the complementary reading material can be accessed from this symbol. So to enlarge pictures, we can use this symbol. Click for further information. Click on the photo to access specific children's experiences, and click to access on interactive activity. So like that. And here the same symbols are given to learn. It's an exercise whether you know these symbols correctly or not. So here this particular course, uh, the importance is explains how climate change can affect children, and describes how measures to build climate resilience and mitigate climate change can benefit children, and illustrate key instruments and good practices for empowering children to act on climate change, and identify opportunities for protecting children's rights in a changing climate. So these are the various things that you would learn from this particular course. So these are the aspects in section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, and section 5. First is the impact of climate change on children, because children, they constitute one of the most important category of people globally by numbers also. So, and strengthening children's resilience to climate change, and benefits of climate change mitigation for children. So that is basically reducing greenhouse gases as well as adopting certain technologies. Empowering children to act on climate change through education. So this is for preparedness for children as future citizens, how what decisions they can make and what role they can play. And a climate change agenda for children, that is also required, especially for children. So here is a picture you could see during a flood. Some children are here. So the lives of children will be miserable in case of this kind of disasters. First of all, these are mostly man-made and climate-induced disasters, where these younger generations had no role, but the earlier generations have caused this situation. But ultimately, they are suffering. And here is a video of children's opinions on climate change, basically. So you could watch during your leisure time. So by clicking this, you will go to the video link. And there may be no greater growing threat facing the world's children and their children than climate change. So the biggest disaster, impending disaster, is induced by the climate change factor. So if you see even the world's distribution of children and climate risk, so you could see mostly the children majority are in the highly populous countries and in Asian countries. And also less developed countries, we find more children. Say in Africa, we can find many. In India, we have China and Southeast Asian countries. Even some in Mexico and Central America, South America. So this distribution is there. And these are some of the highly impacted areas globally due to climate change. So the world's distribution of children and climate scenarios. So how many children would be affected? So this numbers are given here. If the business as usual scenario is existing, means if we continue to this global warming, the emissions and the impacts as it is with the present trend, so 1.45 billion children would be affected. That is one scenario. So there are different scenarios, but if we act and if we are ambitious to telling that all countries would act immediately, then if the greenhouse gas emissions are cut, then the affected will be less, and that's a better scenario for the future of the children. So here again you can see on each circle by clicking we can get to more information related to this global warming, the health of children, disasters, pollution, and all that. And nearly 160 million children live in areas of high or extremely high drought severity. The climate change induces all types of disasters. So drought is also one big, which affects many countries, especially tropics and subtropics, where the already desertification is there. So this 150 children is a very big factor also. And you can see the globally where this drought affected areas are there. This is the Sahara and the sub-Saharan area all around. That is the biggest area. And many parts like in our own Rajasthan, Thar Desert, or even cold deserts are also there in the higher latitudes. So we can see in each area how many millions of children would get affected. So drought has become a common norm, and we have seen especially in China recently the Yangtze River and the biggest drought it affected. Even European drought here, never in the history, in the past, in the recent history. So we have seen such kind of droughts. And already food insecurity and all such challenges are existing in these areas now, in African countries, many of them. So here, in case of this kind of situation, there will be severe water stress and impacts on children, like lack of clean water and undernutrition. This would impact. Then development of diseases and exploitation and emotional disruption. These are the various things that would happen in case of drought. Over half a billion children live in extremely high flood occurrence zones. Again, we have seen due to climate change, the areas where rainfall was less, even 30% to 50 and 100% up to more rains, many areas are receiving. That would cause the floods, and it's a very big factor on the lives of the children. Here are the areas, high child population density areas are given in red color. Again, this dark blue is the high occurrence of floods areas, dark blue. So let us say in the North India, the Gangetic Plain, we have both more children, including Bangladesh, you can see. And around that, you can see the very dark blue color. It means these are flood affected areas and there are more children already existing. And in this area alone, 340 million children would be affected. Similarly in China, in Africa, some of the countries, and here in the South America, the northern part. And here you see the injuries and drowning that would happen because the skills of survival for children will be low in such situations. And they cannot cope with including the disease due to water. And the flood is one factor, directly people, very few people would die. But after the flood, the disease is a very big factor. The vectors through water, contamination, pollution, and many waterborne diseases, and including malnutrition. So all these things would have impact on the children. So extreme heat will become a growing and a regular problem for children in many parts of the world. So global warming already 1.5 degrees very soon on an average we are reaching globally within a few years. And even 2 degrees also as the trend is continuing, and there are very few mitigation steps that we could see globally. So overall heat, average heat is increasing, and even wet bulb temperature where there is already water bodies and relative humidity has increased, and where there is heat, the feels like temperature will be very high. So this will have direct impact on the children. So heat stroke, because their bodies are so small, they're poking to the excess heat and dehydration and vulnerability to the diseases. All these things would increase. And here, this is a jigsaw puzzle they have given just to put things together, how the things are related to one another. So air pollution led to 6,61,000 deaths of children under 5 years of age in 2012 alone. See, the corona, which attracted so much attention globally, so many deaths may not be occurring, but due to the factors like air pollution, water pollution, waterborne diseases, malnutrition. So these kind of factors which are always existing in some countries, especially very poor countries, and deaths are occurring in large scale. So over and above the climate change is happening now. So and the pollution of children, because the greenhouse gases, several of them are also the air pollution factors. So they will have direct impact on the prenatal health effect, pneumonia, asthma, like so many diseases would impact children. And lethal and debilitating diseases, particularly dangerous for children, are highly susceptible to changes in the climate. So that's already happening. Even we have seen, of course, the corona did not impact children so much, but some elderly population who are already living in most polluting air pollution areas, the vulnerability was very high due to corona. That was directly related. So because of air pollution, the lungs are so weak already. The contamination happened in the lungs, and due to corona, they could not cope. So several of them died. So that happened. So like that, these are related factors. Then temperature suitability for the transmission of malaria. If you see, again, high temperatures and a kind of relative humidity is very high in some parts of the world where the population is very high relatively. It means the children are also high in these areas relatively. So all these areas, they would get impacted by disease like malaria caused by mosquitoes. And the raising global temperatures, uh, actually they made this increase the suitability for the transmission of malaria in many areas. So disease, so cholera and meningitis like thing. That also cases per week it is seen here, and relative humidity when it is high. So and dust when it is high. So there is a lots of correlationship, and also related to rainfall and the temperature also. So in dry, hot, and dusty seasons, this kind of diseases would increase. So then here again, gender aspects, if we see among women, men, girls, and boys, so they will be impacted definitely. So then social limitations prevent the capacity of women and girls to learn useful skills and expose them to higher risks of disaster-related mortality. So now when gender-wise also, the survival of women and girls will be low overall. Girls are more exposed to violence and abuse following disasters. Girls are more likely to be withdrawn from school after a major disaster. So even I have seen even the girls who are of marriageable age, they could not get married because of a drought. I mean, the parents, they delayed their marriages. It means they cannot afford their marriages. So one disaster might impact a family for several years. So lives and livelihoods all would be pushed back. So this climate change poses an existential threat due to the dependent relationship with the environment and its resources. And the 370 million indigenous adults and children in 90 countries are at risk of facing the direct consequences of climate change. 370 million indigenous adults and children. It's a huge number. Then indigenous people represent 15% of the world's poor and are located in the areas of high biological diversity. And this biological diversity is also getting impacted in climate change. Indigenous people make up one third of the 900 million people living in extreme poverty in rural areas. The most eco-friendly lifestyle is of the indigenous people. They adopt the minimalist way of life. They're always nature-based solutions they adopt. And all their houses are mostly green buildings. Their ecological footprint is low, their carbon footprint is low, and their practices are sustainable and eco-friendly in some parts. Still, the people in the developed countries and those who are using excess energy and those who are contributed to climate change are not responding, nor being responsible for the consequences happening in the especially these remote communities, because the source and causes are somewhere, but impacts are everywhere. That is what we need to understand in climate change. Climate change will increase the frequency of extreme weather events. So this is very big factor. Sometimes we might feel we had enough rains this year, but there will be excess temperatures also to evaporate the water bodies. So this is a kind of situation where extreme weather events as well as shift in the seasons has also happened. And the experiencing cumulative shocks will be detrimental for children. So the induced shocks because of such extreme events will impact on children. So here in this factors are given, again what we read earlier. Unless we act now, means now or never, actually we are in a situation. So this is an emergency actually, climate emergency, climate crisis, even code red for humanity. So there are so many terms given for this kind of situation. So there is a need to act now. Yes, strengthening children's resilience to climate change. How do you do that? Resilience means there are so many things, definitions. It is not one. Resilience means how do they cope immediately, or also there is an impact. Then again, how do they come back, bounce back, or even social resilience, physical resilience, the infrastructure, what kind we are building for the future generations. So like that, various resilience factors will be there. It is not a single term or jargon. So in the face of unavoidable impacts for the next generation, children-centered adaptation is a necessary element of the global response to climate change. Because the mitigation efforts are so low, it means this temperature would increase and the impacts would be felt, and the changes are happening so fast. Then how do we make them adapt to this new situation? This is very critical, because if we can't avoid, then you have to adopt. So right from their education, everywhere what we can do. Focusing on the specific risk faced by children in a changing climate. So let us say in a country we have many floods, then how do they face? Then ensuring that children's needs and capacities are central to adaptation planning and implementation. Then increasing the voice and agency of children in adaptation decision-making process. Like we have UNICEF, several organizations are there which are working for children. Therefore, protecting children's rights, such as the rights to life, safety, participation, and development. Even the Indian Constitution gives the right, these kind of rights. But how do we protect for the future generation? So disaster risk reduction in children is a very big thing. I myself have done this tsunami mock drill exercises for school children, where earlier we had tsunami impacts in the coastal areas. So as part of this teaching, this kind of preparedness of children is very much required. So similarly on climate change, we need to work. So prevention, preparedness, response, recovery, all these things are part of this. And this climate change impacts are projected to increase the numbers of children affected by disasters to 175 million per year in the coming decades. It's very huge, 175 million. DRR aims to minimize vulnerabilities and disaster risk in order to avoid or to limit the adverse impacts of natural hazards. We have Sendai framework also, and while also recovering non-climate related disasters. Example, earthquake, DRR is recognized as a key climate change adaptation strategy. Some are already like geological, like volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, they're called the geological thing. But the sea level rise is related to climate change. Sea level rise plus tsunami means we have double disaster, like that. So when the children are here, we have to mainstream actually to child center adaptation into development. Children are a key part in the identification of risks and resilience building options, development programs. And the children's specific needs and capacities are included in the vulnerability assessments and planning processes for climate smart development. And children are included in the process of monitoring and evaluation of programs and initiatives that affect them. So that is what we need to do. We have this national adaptation plan, but all countries are not building this national adaptation plan. Within that, WASH is very important. Water and sanitation, especially. And UNICEF has developed a document on this. WASH climate resilient development. So again, then climate change, children and climate change in Zimbabwe, one example. And here, Zimbabwe's national climate change response strategy, there they have included after consultations. So effective child-centered adaptation measures exist for all priority areas for children. Explore more by clicking on the link. So by clicking on each of these links like health, WASH, education, nutrition, protection, and inclusion. So there are so many areas where we can work on the issues related to climate change. Then improved access to emergency health services decreases death and injuries from disasters. This is very critical. Health, education, both are critical, but health immediately after a disaster is very, very important. Heat wave early warning systems and appropriate advice help reduce. Again, heat-related illness it could reduce. Then improved access to anti-malaria treatment and mosquito nets. This is a very simple thing actually. Mosquito net appears a simple device, but it prevented so many deaths globally. And it is eco-friendly also. Enabling environment. So integrate climate resilience into WASH policies, strategies and plans. And sanitation and hygiene is very important. Strengthen community understanding of climate risk. And water quality. So we have some programs even in Council for Green Revolution, where we are empowering children in understanding the water pollution, even air quality aspects. So that would help them to understand what water they're drinking at home, in the school, or anywhere, the qualities of a drinkable water, or types of other waters also. And then water storage in the drought-prone areas, water supply options, then climate smart technologies. So including some children were enabled with local sensors in irrigation areas to monitor the water usage, water irrigation scheduling, water use efficiency, and something like the concepts of aqua crop, that is like crop per drop. So like that, many factors they were trained from earlier experiences I'm sharing. And strong climate change impacts in the Central African Republic. So these things are ongoing actually. Then structural measures. So this is again very important. Disaster resilient infrastructure. Within that, the school is very, very important, because immediately after any disaster, the whole village or the community around the school, they are taking shelter in schools. Many disaster prone areas, school buildings are far better than any other building, and it can accommodate more people. So many people are rushing toward the schools. But otherwise also children are there, let us say during the school time, if children are there, in case of a disaster, they will be there anyhow, taking shelter there. So as relief, the school buildings and premises are being used. And this school-based programs, like I have initiated this temperature and relative humidity sensors. Children themselves assembled, and they have put in about 10 schools in Ahmedabad and Surat areas, where they themselves could see the heat stress. If sunstroke is about to happen, they can make from their own reading from their own school premises. Because locally also monitoring the weather parameters is very, very important. Because within, especially in urban areas, we have pockets of very high temperature, like heat islands. So this would impact children a lot. So that's why this monitoring, decentralized monitoring, automatic weather stations or air pollution monitoring systems, if we link with schools, they are the best places, because children need to be protected. So by installing there, children will be aware, and from there the data the whole community can use. Then youth-led community risk mapping enhance their involvement and awareness. This is also very important. Civil defense we have to build, and especially involving youth in such programs. So that's why we have Earth Leaders programs, where youth are made aware of this climate change, including this program which we are conducting with especially introducing to climate change courses of UN is one such means. So that if you have knowledge on what is happening around, then you can become part of decision making, action, adaptation, mitigation, and you can create awareness. So many things can happen around. And crop diversification increases food security and livelihood. So this is very critical in climate change situation. And those things are happening also globally. Then fortified food and other programs are also there, breastfeeding and for nutrition for children. Then community gardens. Yes, again in one of our programs, Earth Research Centers, where we are making the children develop their own nutrition gardens in the school premises. So they would learn how to plant, how to understand the value of food cultivated, and they can consume, because midday meals is part of their program. So what they have grown themselves, they can consume. So this way we can empower them, children. So this again a case study is given of Nepal, where children are suffering from acute malnutrition. And here the factor is psychological and social support to children, especially, that is very, very required. The counseling very much required. And the safety net interventions help to prevent dislocation and exploitation of children. That is another important. Providing water closer to homes keeps girls safe from abuse and boosts their school attendance. Yeah, water security is one important factor. Even in a drought situation or even a flood situation, both times access to water is very, very important. And child-sensitive climate budgeting and programming that is required, and cash transfers after natural disasters strengthen social protection system. So these are happening nowadays. Direct cash transfer. And education and health service fee waiver and other things are also important. Of course, any welfare government should look after two things. It is minimum is education and health. So here another video, a case study of Niger is given. And climate sensitive manual drilling program. So this way. Then the benefits of climate change mitigation for children. So let us see. Ambitious action to cut greenhouse gases will benefit the lives of hundreds of millions of children. Not only children, everything, every life on this earth will be relieved from what is happening now, including adults, biodiversity, within that flora, fauna, everything. So this greenhouse gas emissions is a very big factor, and even if you see from which factor it is being contributed, energy and industry you can put together because mostly energy and industry both are related. So it's a very big area. Then transportation, then buildings sectors. So all these sectors are contributing greenhouse gases. Apart from that, we have many other sources. So indirect emissions and direct emissions. So both are there. So the climate change mitigation is a human intervention to reduce the sources of or enhance the sinks of greenhouse gases. So already we have so much greenhouse gases emitted and existing in the atmosphere. So how do you make different cycles to sequester, to capture and store for longer periods? Say the plants would store the CO2 by breathing in the form of carbohydrates in their body. So the shells in marine life, they store in the form of calcium carbonate shells. When those animals die, these shells are they settle in the sea. So it means that much CO2 is sequestered by those animals like that. Then foraminiferia, the micro shells, microorganisms of the oceans. So like that, many the systems are doing sequestration, but the rate of emission is so high, so sequestration is low. So that's why we have excess greenhouse gases and the consequences we are facing. Energy related CO2 is the most important greenhouse gas responsible in 2015 for about 60%, 63% of emission. So there are other alternative means like solar panels. So these energy services are essential for human activity as the world's energy demand is expected to increase, and sustainable energy is crucial for our future. And here you see how children are connected to various sources of energy. In school, they use energy for their water, they use for lighting, they even transportation, hospitals like that. So in many places, gender roles dictate that girls and women are responsible for collecting, cooking fuel and typically firewood. So I understand this factor more because I worked on low cost efficient good stoves, chullas, biomass stoves, I myself designed. So this especially the burden on women and girls is very high. Even collecting is also very high. The cost we are not putting in actually the labor cost in fetching, the time spent in fetching the fuel wood or the loss to the local biomass or the local loss of biodiversity, the drudgery of women or the air pollution caused by the chullas, again global warming, or when they inhale the impacts on their health. So there are so many factors around this cooking. Firewood collection presents large physical and time burdens. And in emergency context, girls are also at great risk of sexual violence. Yes, when they go out for fetching the fuel wood and all that, this is what happening. Sustainable energy solutions can contribute to girls' well-being and safety. So here we had to some adopt some efficient chullas. So that is what required. Using more efficient heating stoves now, especially in higher latitudes, Europe and many other countries, due to the coming winter now already started almost. The cost on fuel is very high for them because of the particular global uncertainty situation in energy due to the war and the recession or the global sanctions. So there is a big challenge as of now, and the cost of fuel has increased. And capacity building and awareness raising is very critical. Developing policies to tackle greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution is also required. Actions undertaken to reduce greenhouse gas emissions can positively or negatively affect the children. Yeah, here definitely, if we reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it will be positive only. But in the process of reducing greenhouse gases, there could be some situations where it would affect them negatively also. For that reason, it is given. So to weigh the plus and minus factors and the safeguards for the children. Then including children's considerations in climate mitigation planning can maximize the benefits and minimize the negative impacts on children and other vulnerable population. It is not about a few rich people for whom we are working, but we are working for everyone. So in this regard, looking the children's considerations is very critical. Then educating children about climate change can be seen as a mitigation activity, as children are the world's future decision makers and consumers. That is one of the reasons why we started with children and climate change course now, because children constitute a very big proportion of the population and they are the future and their vulnerability is very high, and there is a need for everybody to understand especially these children and climate change factor. So for that reason, this course we are mentoring so that everyone should be aware of this. So it is like a mosaic of things, plus, minus, and various factors. Empowering children to act on climate change through education. So the school curriculum too. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela said that. The current curriculum, when textbooks are written, most of them are very old. Currently, what is happening doesn't exist in many textbooks, or the future things may not exist so much. So, by educating children on the past, in what way we are going to benefit the future generations? A student of a standard with the knowledge of the past, that is for learning good. But action is required for today and tomorrow based on the learnings from the past. So that is the value of education actually. So changing the curriculum with the changing times immediately is the immediate thing. This national education policy of India, that is helping now as they are developing curriculum. So they can get into multidisciplinary things or they can diversify their disciplines to take up certain current challenges also. So that gives some flexibility also. So I think the educationists and the policy makers to need to act immediately and adopt. That is very much required. And in this regard, we are already working with education department and several schools in Telangana to start with. And we are educating children on climate change and the various factors that we have initiated the process already. And we have some centers in the villages. And we have special programs for children on recently we had a particular program on climate change adaptation for children. It was a 2 days program. So what the children need to do? So they could learn various factors. And here actually education promotes learning about the causes and effects of climate change as well as possible responses. This is very much required. Enhances resilience, encourages changes in behavior and promotes critical thinking. Advances the realization of children's rights. Aims to promote climate resilient development and reduce vulnerability of communities. And this formal education, non-formal education, informal education, all types of education will lead to the education of the masses. And everywhere we have to incorporate these things. So climate change integrated in education legislation and policies, sector plans and budgets, school curricula and examinations, training and teaching materials for teachers, learning environment, school governance and infrastructure. So we have incorporated recently some of the education materials on SDGs. The goal number 13 in SDGs is on climate change. So within this climate change, again, we have given certain activities like schools need to adopt an automatic weather station within the school premises. And children can play a role or part in understanding their temperature, relative humidity, air pollution, like that, such factors. And indirect things like water quality or water pollution factors or water use efficiency factors. So like that, we are incorporating certain programs in the schools. So this will definitely help the children, the future generations, say ongoing. And here, there are so many ways we can create awareness climate change. So like climate champions, a kind of recognition we can give to children. Those who are using bicycle to come to school, or those who are walking to school, rather using a vehicle which uses this petrol or diesel or some other fuel, which causes again greenhouse gas emission. So there are various ways we can motivate children and schools or even their water consumption. If they reduce, definitely they're saving energy, they're saving the most valuable water, and they can cope with the upcoming challenges related to drought and other things. So here innovation hubs are there and activity books are there. So these resources are available once you get into that material in PDF or interactive learning lesson. By clicking on this other links, you can get the details. So promoting girls' access to education, that is important, because equality of opportunity, because there are more boys now enrolled in schools but less girls. So this gender imbalance we had to bring it down, and incorporating indigenous knowledge and learning system, that is very important. The time tested people science, people traditional sciences, traditional knowledge on sustainability, that should become part of the curriculum. Providing young refugees with livelihood skills in a changing climate. So young refugees means along with parents, the children also move to some other place. So this livelihood skills would change sometimes from place to place. So how to adopt the new skills, and taking into account the learning needs of people and disabilities. That is again another big challenge. In case of disaster, the disabled population is an important factor. So education, way how they are putting in practice, by clicking on these links, you would know in which country what they're doing in school curriculum. As children better understand the causes and impacts of climate, they will be better able to plan for and respond to climate change. So here actually even they are very sensible also. Their senses will be very sharp. The changes they can easily understand. And young people build barriers to limit soil erosion. So that's why in our programs we are training on soil testing, soil management, even watershed activities like that. Various things we are teaching, and even the science exhibitions, and that's also a good way for them to get involved and understand the alternatives. Uh, Here are some more examples of rainforest. So we are creating this earth centers in schools. Basically, these are kind of biodiversity and declaring a old tree as mother tree in a school, and around that they will conserve the local biodiversity. So this concept is existing. We are calling earth clubs. So the children already initiated them, and that reverence to Mother Earth, nature, and also on climate change, like that many factors they would learn from these earth clubs. So this was also initiated, and we have many success stories in our organization. And young climate ambassadors that we can through our Earth Leaders programs we are already working on. And the United Nations Joint Framework Initiative on Children, Youth, and Climate Change. There is a one program is there, and then there are various things like UNFCCC, Rotterdam Convention, Paris Agreement, Basel Treaty. So where the importance of climate change education has been included in international climate agreements, such as. So this is a kind of exercise given. Then a climate agenda for children. What is the agenda? The convention sets out the rights that must be realized for children to develop their full potential, free from hunger and want, neglect, and abuse. So this is one of the important aspects. We have various frameworks now, like Paris Agreement 2015, Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, that is above action agenda, and 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So by clicking this, you will get into.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, only for 2 minutes more. Only 1 minute.
Yeah, we are completing. Okay.
Okay.
So young and future generation, here is another program. Then the governments have the responsibility to protect children from the impacts of a changing climate. Then government need to mobilize long-term climate finance and distribute it to benefit the most vulnerable, including women and children. So there are some concrete steps globally to protect. Then cut greenhouse gas emissions. The steps are being taken, and make the needs of the most vulnerable, including children, central to climate change adaptation, reduce inequality among children, how to promote their future resilience to climate change, listen to and act on children's perspectives on climate change, provide children and young people with the climate change education, awareness raising, and training. So these are the agenda factors actually, all these scale up proven approaches to address the changing needs of children, align and coordinate work on climate change adaptation, put in place measures to protect children who have been displaced, invest in children when implementing national climate plans, and everyone should get involved. So these are the various things. So this protecting the planet and protecting our children go hand in hand, and both can be achieved if we all act now. So that is very critical. Act now is the mantra now. Otherwise, there is no way to delay the process. So this is what you have learned in these modules. The summaries are given here, and the credits are also given from where the pictures and the materials like that are taken. So this is the end of this session. Now, related to this, I will quickly go through now exactly 1 hour we have completed. And today I will be, because most of you have gone through earlier another course. So I understand especially how to attend the quiz and how to get the that certificate download and all that you know already. So here let me just show. I have prepared a bank here. Those who want to use this bank, you can use. So here you can see the options are given. The site. Uh, some questions are given which are frequently asked, and some answers are also given. So you can use this as a bank to understand. But you need to study the whole material. Okay, getting a certificate is not a great thing. What I mean is this course is an introduction for you to understand the things around the subject and get deeper into the subject with the progress of time. Many people with certificate, they end thinking or reading anything more. They think I am qualified, that's over. That is the end of my studying. But I mean, passing is a beginning for you, because tomorrow if somebody asks you, do you know you got certificate on children and climate change? Do you know anything? Then you need to respond. Your certificate is not going to answer. So as a person, you should be knowledgeable, and so this all the questions and answers are given. I'm sure you can go through this link which is already provided, and you will pass. Okay, once passing, please share your certificates immediately for the benefit of for our records, because we want to know how many are really getting benefited this mentorship program of Council for Earth Leadership and Sustainability. And definitely we'll be encouraged to conduct more courses, and we'll start on our own a few more courses which are very relevant geographically to this particular region also. So like that we can work together. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you one and all. So